Haley Pham's book isn't even out yet and it's getting slammed. I just realized I could have been using my pointer hand this entire time. Okay, there is a lot to the story and I'm really excited to get into it. As soon as it came across my For You page on TikTok, I was like, I have to do something for this because it is truly fascinating. What happened? Who is she? Who is slamming it? Well, we'll get into it. So firstly, who is Haley Pham? I'm sure you've heard of her, maybe if you've been on Book Talk or on YouTube in that genre. So first, let's set it up. A while ago, I had seen that Haley Pham was writing a book and I was interested. I was like, hey, go for it. I have seen some of her YouTube videos and I was like, go for it. Honestly, I was a little scared for her since she was writing a romance and I feel like that's really hard to write if you don't have quite the knack for it. But I guess how do you know you have the knack for it if you don't start writing? So she seemed very excited about writing it and I saw a couple of the videos she made and she had some entertaining updates. I didn't hear about this book at all because it's not out yet and all that, but until I came across this specific TikTok.
Have to worry about me. You do not have to worry. Woo, that'll do it.
About a author or an aspiring author expressing their anxiety, shall I say, for writing a book because they might get a review like that one girl did for Haley Pham's book. And I was like, oh, okay, if that makes you stop writing, I have to know what this review said. Now, luckily, TikTok has been so good in these suggested searches, so it was really easy to find the original girl's video. Her name is Ilana, but we'll get into it. Let me keep setting this up. So let's get into who she is. Who is Haley Pham? Why do even people care that she's writing a book? Why do people want to slam the book or read it anyways? So, first of all, she is a YouTuber. She's kind of a lifestyle YouTuber. If I go back on her channel, she was making videos that were normal of that time. Lifestyle stuff, makeup, fashion. I mean, she's really big YouTuber with 3.8 million subscribers on YouTube, 1.5 million followers on Instagram, 2.4 million followers on TikTok. So her videos are quite entertaining. I've seen a few of them. Then in 2023, after doing all the lifestyle videos, she kind of pivoted into book type content and started doing these like arbitrary challenges like 7 thrillers in 7 days. I tried reading for 24 hours, reading from only little libraries for a week. Now the 24 hours, side note, I don't even know how people do those 24-hour reading challenges. I would never be able to do that. It just, not even with coffee, not even with any sort of thing. I don't even know how they do that. That truly seems impossible. But if you've done that, if you've tried it, let me know. I've also seen those other ones where they're like, oh, I'm taking my girlfriends and old friends to weekend away to an Airbnb and we're just reading for 24 hours. I'm like, you do you. I'll just read for a normal 4 hours a day, maybe. Thanks, but no thanks. So that's just about her. Now let's get into the book announcement.
This is terrifying to admit. My name is Haley and I'm writing my first book.
In August of 2024, she announced that she was writing a book and that
my dream is to be a New York Times bestselling author next to authors who have literally changed my life.
Also, side note, I know that there's some shenanigans going with New York Times bestselling lists. I know that the numbers are manipulated sometimes. I don't want to let that dampen her sales success when the book does come out, but I do hear that it is a bit shady. She then revealed the genre of the book later in that August, and that it was going to be a romance.
What is the genre, you ask? Good question. How about I point to something on my shelf to let you know? Fantasy. I'm writing a romance book. Is anyone surprised?
Side note, is kind of funny that in this video she kind of like goes across the bookshelves and then she ends up pointing to a book that says 1-star romance. The irony, you know what I mean? I just realized I could have been using my pointer hand this entire time. So I will start using it. If I'm looking off to the side, I have notes because a lot happened and I'm gonna forget. I'm a forgetful bitch. What can I say? Also, I have a little bit of really watery coffee to fuel this. because this is a new one for me. Anyways, you're not here for me, you're here for the story. Let's keep going. She updated her fans that same year in October on the progress of the book and that she had finished the first draft.
Here's how that went. I hit 56,000 words.
$80,000 words. That's a lot of words. That is a lot of words. Imagine typing 80,000 words with this pointer finger. That's a lot of words. The comments on those videos are insanely positive. Like, everyone is super excited for her to write the book and to read it. And they're just going to say, I'm immediately buying the book. No questions asked. Immediately buying. Press now to buy now. Psh, if they could. In January of this year, 2025, she said she was now onto the editing phase. But it seems like she was the one editing it because she gets an editor in a little bit.
This is the first draft of my book. She's huge. This could hurt someone. Which means we're now in the editing phase.
It seemed like the editing advice from more successful authors like Stephen King was to set the book aside or the manuscript aside for a month at least so that you can get some distance from the work so you can have a clear mind when you come back to it.
First step shocked me. The advice that I saw is to put away the first draft for as long as possible. Stephen King does 6 weeks, other authors do 4 weeks, but the goal is to get as much space as you can so that when you come back to edit it, you can critique it as objectively as possible. So even though it was painful, that is what I did. For 1 full month, I did not read a sentence of my first draft.
Honestly, that makes total sense. You just get some distance. My legs. I don't know why I decided to do this on the floor. Okay, so then in March, she posts like a day in the life of a writer type thing. Very cute, very fun. I love day in the life videos, obviously. So day in the life of a writer. Then timeline continues. We get another update in June of this year, 2025. So somehow she gets a copy of the book and then reads it front to back, as you should.
Goal number 1 was to not read it for an entire month, and as difficult as that was, I did it. And now that it's been 1 month, it's time to read my own book. There's sweat stains. I'm actually so nervous reading this. Some lines I'm like, okay, we can do this. And other lines I'm like, we need to change that. But it's not about that. It's about the structural formation of the book.
She then kind of expresses that doing editing of a book is kind of overwhelming. It's like where to start, what to do type of thing. So it's quite overwhelming. She then hopes that an established publishing house will be able to help her in the editing phase. I read the whole thing and I made notes, and today's the first ever day that I'm editing it.
But I didn't get far before getting overwhelmed. So goal number 2 of this editing process was going to be the hardest. It was time to see if a professional editor at a publishing house could fall in love with my story enough to take a chance on me as a debut author and help me get this story into your hands.
So when she meets with this professional editor, she now realizes how important it is to have an editor and what they do actually, because they don't just like put commas here and there and change words around. They're actually kind of helping you hone it's like an ice sculpture. Your book is like a ice sculpture or a stone sculpture, whatever, a sculpture made of whatever you want, and it is kind of in rough shape. And they kind of help mold it. They like help chip off little things that don't make sense, so they make you add to it, or like maybe flesh out this character a little more. They do. I just had a meeting with a real editor at a publishing house who read my story, like knows my characters' names, and I feel really dumb for not knowing this, but editors don't just move around your commas and fix your spelling. They actually help you with like your plot structure and digging into your character's motivations. You still have to do all the writing, but they try to kind of harness you in and push you toward telling the story in the best way possible. And if this editor likes my story enough, then I would definitely be one step closer to this going to you as an actual book. There's still a lot of work to be done, but it's really where the work could begin. So then a little bit later, she then mentions that the book has been picked up and will be published by Atria Books, which is a division of Simon & Schuster. Now that is a big publishing house. That's one of the big ones. That's one of the big ones, guys. So this is not an independent thing. This is establishment stuff, which might be part of the reason why people are a bit upset. But we'll get into that. Then she also announces who the main characters are and that the name of the book will be Just Friends.
Are you ready to hear the title of my book, finally?
3, 2, 1, just friends!
My book is titled Just Friends. It feels surreal to tell you that name. And I can also finally say that this story is about Blair and Declan. I'm so excited for you guys to finally meet them.
And guess what? Now it's available for pre-order. Let's go. Make sure you pre-order, guys.
Speaking of dreams, I've divulged my dream of becoming a New York Times bestseller. And for the first time, you guys can actually help me with making that dream come true. Because you can pre-order my book right now. Pretty much anywhere that you buy books. I literally cannot believe I'm saying that.
And again, I mean, this is when she says thank you so much to her fans for supporting her during the process. I can only imagine how stressful that is. The next part of the video, that's kind of the updates and how she let her audience know how the book was doing and all that. But now we're going to get into the part where, the book is finished now. And now it's available for ARC copies or advanced reader copies. I'm sure if you're even watching this video, I'm sure you know what ARC copies of books are. But just in case, we'll go over this a little bit. So in the book sphere, you can get books way ahead of release, up to a year. Honestly, I don't know how pre-release you can get it, but this one's coming out next year, March, the one that I'm talking about, Just Friends. So it's months out, truly. And usually these are sent to various people. I mean, you can request it. You can send emails to various publishing houses and try your luck. Obviously, someone like me will not be able to get any advanced reader copies because why? Who am I? You know what I mean? So people who are book critics will be able to get copies. And, a lot of content creators do get copies, which is the case in this situation. And they're expected to give constructive criticism on books and kind of generate buzz about the book coming out soon, or maybe that people can pre-order. I mean, opinions on books are literally so subjective. I saw a video the other day talking about about the question, are we even reading the same book? And in some cases, we're probably not reading the same book because it's that subjective. Yeah, I don't want to go on a whole nother tangent about how subjective books are, but some books will hit people differently. And honestly, any of these books, I might not be in the right stage of life to read. I might not like any of these books, like any of these ones. I could be reading them and it just doesn't hit, even though these are extremely popular books. But it depends on your background, your experiences, who you are as a person, what you've done, where you are in life. There's so much subjectivity around book reviews. So yeah, usually just stick with someone that maybe you trust or you have the same taste in. And yeah, tangent over. In the same vein, when there's a book that resonates with you quite a bit and you see it torn down by someone else, that can feel like a personal attack on you. So then you just kind of get riled up. And so you kind of conflate the two ideas of you and the book and your story. And that's when we kind of get caught in the weeds of this negative sort of thing where it's just understand that books are subjective. That's all. I have books I hate that other people love. I have books I love that people hate. So just let it roll off. Let it continue. Just keep reading, Okay, so let's get into why I made this video. What was the criticism that went viral for this book that made people talk about it and maybe not want to keep writing their book out of fear for getting a similar review? It's not going to be a perfect summary, but I'll put some clips in, as you'll see, for what this person said. So, in the caption of this video from Ilana, she does say she's going to be harsh in capital letters. So, yeah. Firstly, she prefaces by saying that she does not tend to like the second chance trope.
My opinion, whether or not it is objectively good, not whether or not I like it, because it is a second chance, and I historically don't like second chance.
Now, that to me actually tells me that maybe she shouldn't read it. She says she does actually, in some books, she does like the trope, but maybe she shouldn't be she's not the person to be reviewing this. I mean, I don't think I would be the perfect romance book reviewer because I like romance, but I'm not that's not my first go-to, you know what I mean? Then she gives some predictions on how she thinks the story will go.
My prediction before we get into it, the writing will try to be reminiscent of Emily Henry, because I know she really loves Emily Henry and her writing. I know that the romance will be closed door. She does not like open door. Bummer. I think, for no reason other than my assumption, it's going to be a little more showing than telling.
Okay, then she says, in chapter 1, she highlights that it seems to her that Haley uses a thesaurus because of phrases like, the feeling was personified, or I forced myself to perceive its beauty.
Multiple sentences where you read them and you're like, oh, she definitely consulted a thesaurus. The feeling is personified in my stomach. One of my favorite ones. I force myself to perceive its beauty. I have to yield to a conglomerate of pedestrians. So far, I'm right about one prediction. Wannabe Emily Henry. I'm astonished by her forwardness.
And then she wonders if Haley even had an editor because of the repeated sentence style.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a cynic, but did she have an editor? Not to fix grammatical mistakes, although there have been a couple, but to fix, like, okay, if you have a specific phrase or sentence style, you're not supposed to repeat it a bunch of times, let alone twice on the same page.
She doesn't think the writing flows naturally. It feels stilted and also which is also reflected in the word choices.
Now that I've established I don't like the writing, and I don't think that the writing flows naturally, it feels very... Let me consult a thesaurus, why don't I? Stilted. The writing is very stilted. Stiff and self-conscious, or unnatural.
And then it's like a more personal comment about Haley's content, saying that there was a shift into more pretentious phase of talking about books, and the whole I learned a new word and I'm so happy that I learned this new word.
Known, because months ago I saw a video of hers back when she was still talking about books, but it was when she was transitioning into the pretentious phase of talking about books, where she said, oh, I just read this sentence in a book and I learned a new word. I love when that happens. Then I have to look up the word to know what it means. The word was banal, which I think is not a fancy word. It's just banal.
And we're only halfway through this review. It's brutal, guys. This review is quite brutal.
And now we have the second traumatic thing for our male main character that's going to give him personality, because they will inevitably be very two-dimensional.
And then kind of on that, our main character is making everything about herself and kind of ignoring everyone else. She then notes that the pacing feels a bit off.
It's moving really quickly, not in a good way. The pacing, it's very odd.
And she kind of just calls it middle grade writing. Like, she just calls her book middle grade writing. Like, damn.
It was very poorly done. This did not read well. I would not call this a romance book. It had middle grade writing.
She also says that grief is a large aspect of the book, but it's a romance book. Also has many critiques of the main character's excuses for her behavior with grief. So apparently the main character uses her grief as an excuse for bad behavior.
There's also a big thing with grief in the book. I feel like that really overtook the plot. It's supposed to be a romance book. There was little to no romance. There was little to no communication. There was little to no resolution. It was just a lot about her grieving and being selfish and blaming it on the grief.
And then at the end, which I think is the crux of the issue here, along with the bad writing and all the other things and the plot and the flow of the story, is that there are so many great authors that struggle to find publishers, and here comes a content creator and just kind of handed a book deal because they have that following.
Sorry. Am I being harsh? Yes. There are so many authors who write fantastic books and spend a long time on them and get the right editors to make it good, and then have to work to get an agent and a publishing deal, and this just fell in her lap because people like her videos on the internet. Where was her team?
And then also I just want to note that at the end she does apologize for how rude this might be coming off.
Why did nobody tell her that the writing wasn't good? I'm being very harsh. I understand that. I apologize for how rude this is coming across. If you get the opportunity because of this thing and you take it, sure, 100% go for it. At least give a good product at the end.
All right, so I did a mediocre job summarizing that. It's really hard. That was like a 7-minute video. Okay. But that video got 1.6 million views, 118,000 likes. And you know, the comments on that video were really supportive of the reviewer, saying that she's entitled to her opinion, and you know, this is what happens when big creators just get things handed to them, or just because you read books doesn't mean you should write them, these kinds of things. So mainly supporting the person who made the critique. And you know, those comments were just brutal on Haley as well. Like, Jesus, like these people just went in. When a video gets that kind of views on TikTok, we usually see people making responses to that video. So responses to the response, you know what I mean? And so people were responding to the review saying, yeah, you just aren't a good reviewer. Like, this is not how you review things. You shouldn't make personal comments, and you shouldn't be attacking the author for being boring. What does the author being boring have to do with the book that she wrote? You know what I mean? And someone said also, we need to give first-time authors more grace.
If you read Haley Pham's book and you don't like it, you can come on here and talk about how you think the writing is bad and the romance is bad. That's totally fine. I give a lot of books 1 star. I say quite mean things about a lot of books. It's just not okay to bring the author into it. There's no need to call her boring because the romance is going to be closed door. There's no need to bring up videos of hers that you watched where she was learning new words from books and you thought that some of those words weren't very impressive. Like, that's not a book review. That has nothing to do with her book.
So what happened to being a debut author? Because last time I checked, your first published book does not have to be a masterpiece. Some of y'all clearly don't know what a compliment sandwich is, and it shows. Like, we have this expectation that authors are supposed to come out of the womb with a fully fleshed, amazing, and beautifully written novel at the get-go. Now, I'm not advocating that debut novels need to be trashed because they're debut novels, but I just think that we can give debut authors some grace with their first ever books. Writing, it's a craft. You get better over time with skill. I think there's a way that you can have a conversation about maybe not liking the writing in this book or the characters or the way that they're written in a way that's a bit more positive.
So for me, I think, you know, ultimately it can be unfair. It can feel unfair to see someone like Haley get a book deal when there are so many other people struggling to become authors and to get published. And she probably got it in a lot shorter time than if she didn't have the channel and if she was trying just as a normal person, you know. It probably would have taken her a lot longer. Or she might have had to write a higher caliber book. But, you know, unfortunately, this was kind of inevitable. Like, if you are a content creator of that size and you create a work like that, but at the same time, you know, the book isn't even out yet, so most of us can't even read to kind of prove or disprove what is coming out. Although there were a couple of other reviewers who did review the book and said similar things.
Blair is Haley. Haley wrote a book about herself. Physical characteristic, interest, friends, even the love interest is very much resembling Ryan. So this took me out of the story because I just felt like I was reading, you know, a fantasy of Haley Pham in an alternate universe. And I hate to say it, but the main character was quite annoying.
There was another reviewer, though, that reviewed the book that said something interesting, and she said that the 2 main characters were like 22 and they own homes. That seems a bit strange. If that's true, that's kind of wild.
I also found the 22-year-olds incredibly unbelievable, and I think this comes from a state of privilege that Haley has. So these 22-year-olds, they both have homes. They own a business. They just do all these things that 22-year-olds really don't do. I don't. I'm 25. I live at home.
Another creator defended the negative review, saying that, you know, reviews don't have to be a compliment sandwich. Maybe people should start reading written reviews more because they are way harsher, according to this person.
That book review for Haley Pham's new book was barely out 48 hours before you already had people bitching about it, claiming that it was bullying, claiming that she was attacking Haley on a personal level. Ilana, I believe that's her name. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Your review was fine. People on Book Talk just love to cling to toxic positivity. There was nothing wrong with that girl's review. There was nothing wrong with it. I really wish some people on Book Talk would engage with written reviews more of books instead of just only engaging with like positive ones or ones that are slightly critiquing a book, because you'll see just how in-depth people can go when reviewing a book.
And, I'll agree with some of the feedback to the negative reviewer. I do think that, comparing these two reviews, the one by Bagel Books and by Ilana, if you compare the two, I do think that, Ilana was way harsher. Like, there's things that you could put them in a nicer way for sure. But the thing is, that doesn't get the views. Now, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I think maybe Haley Pham's book might have been exposed to more people with this review because, that's how I heard about it. And so in a way, it's kind of like all press is good press type of thing. So, after doing all this research, I'm a little torn. Obviously I haven't read the book and it is a romance, so I probably won't read it. But maybe because of all this sort of hubbub, I might check it out. There's some things you don't need to say about a person to review a book. I mean, tear the book apart, rip it to shreds. But yeah, I mean, you can phrase it in a way that's more constructive, But, who cares? I mean, she got the views. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. I think Haley's book will do just fine, regardless. Did you know about Haley Pham? Do you know who she is? Do you know about her book? Will you be checking out her book? Did you hear about this drama? Because, man, that review was scathing, but very entertaining. I think she knows how to give a review.